Hey, welcome to Trial by Father. I'm Isaac, and as a brand new dad, I've got more questions than I have answers for. So, I'm sitting across the table from other parents who are further along the journey than I am, hoping to learn from their wisdom. I want to explore what it looks like to raise children in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And my hope is that it'll spark meaningful conversations around your own table so that we can all learn what it looks like to be the parents God has called us to be. In this episode, I got to sit down with Raz Bradley and talk all about money. Raz is one of the pastors of our church, and he and his wife Christina have two kids, ages 4 and 8. This conversation was super helpful and super practical. Raz has thought a lot about what it looks like to teach their kids about money, especially the value of work and providing and earning. I hope you find this conversation helpful and as insightful as it was for me. And with that, let's dive in. Welcome back, because last week when we filmed this, the audio was shot. So I don't know if that was your fault or my fault.
It's somebody's fault, Isaac.
Somebody's fault. We'll just leave it there. Anyways, why don't you give us the 30-second intro of who you are, your family, and why I'd be sitting down talking with you.
Sure. My name is Raz. I'm one of the pastors at Mill City Church, but I'm one of the what we call lay pastors or lay elders, meaning that I don't work here. I just oversee things that happen here. And so I have a real job. In my real job, I'm a financial planner for retired people. And so I work a lot with other people's money and helping them think through how to use money and that kind of thing. And so I think about money a lot. And so I teach my family about money because I want my kids to grow up knowing what it's used for, how it's made, where it comes from, why it can be dangerous, all those kinds of things. And so I guess I should introduce my family as well. Christina, my wife, and we've got two kids, Nate and Abby. Nate is 8 and Abby is 4. So
there you go.
In terms of families around here, not all that much to work with. There's only 2, but they can be a handful. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe, you already said that you're a financial planner. It's what you do. You think about money. It's something that's on your mind. You care about it. Maybe talk a little bit about the journey that has led you to think a little bit more intentionally about specifically training your kids in the realm of how to think about money, how to interact with it, and all the different stuff that money kind of touches in our lives.
Yeah, well, for starters, I think it's something we need to take seriously. We're warned about money a lot. The love of money is a root of all kinds of evils. That's a scary thing to grow up with or to have to consider for your family. I think especially living in the West, so I grew up in Australia, but I've lived most of my adult life in the U.S. and I'm raising kids here. They're pretty similar from like a consumerism, capitalistic society standard. And so there's just so much garbage that the society in general is going to teach our kids. And real specifically like birthdays and Christmas, those kinds of things. It's like you need more stuff. Sure. Your value comes from how much stuff you've got. And specifically for the 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, like how much plastic garbage can we store in little square cubicles so that when people come over, they know I've got lots of toys or whatever. And so there's this thing that humans are drawn to in the sense that they just want more stuff. And so I think there's a danger there. And so I don't know what the question was. What was the question? It was
where did it start for you in your specific consideration of, okay, I care about this, and obviously I care about my kids, and I want to teach them about it. So what is it like? Where do I start? What am I trying to do? Where's my goal? What's my hope by the time that they graduate high school and they're out of my house? Like that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So part of the goal is life skills. You want them to have biblical basis for everything, but specifically with money, there's biblical warnings, but then there's also biblical things that we're supposed to do with our money. And so that would be things like being generous and that kind of stuff. But there's also a part of me that as a father and looking at our world and seeing the number of kids who come out of high school and college and don't know what tax is and don't know how to can't budget.
Sure. Yeah.
some of it is life skills and leading the family well, so that there would be this element of, how do I prepare my kids so that when they grow up, they are able to exist in society and be productive and that kind of stuff as well. And so I would say my goal is multifaceted. One is have a biblical theology of money in my household, but also prepare my kids for the real world, so that they understand what money is, what it's used for, what its value is, where it comes from, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And hopefully be helpful and productive people in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not an outlandish goal, and also not like it's not far-fetched or way out there. It seems pretty basic and simple in terms of, I want them to be able to interact with money well in the way that we know generally the basics on how to interact with money well in our world.
I don't think anyone would disagree that most kids come out of high school in this country unprepared for the world. They're told, go to university, get an education, and then figure it out. But then they leave university with $200,000 worth of debt, no idea how to pay it back, no idea how to budget. They don't realize that the government's going to come and tax your earnings. And so it's just one of these things. It's part of it is life skills training.
Sure, absolutely. So maybe talk a little bit. I mean, you and I have obviously gotten to talk on our own time, and in terms of the system that y'all have been in the works in establishing, that you're currently operating in with your kids on trying to lay some of the foundations for the stuff you're talking about in terms of basic life skill, thinking wisely about money, and then ultimately, thinking about generosity and that kind of stuff. So maybe walk us through, what is the system that y'all are currently operating and running in to try to teach some of this stuff to your kids?
Yeah. So at the risk of not getting into too much of the theology of why we do things, and instead just getting practically into how we do them.
Sure.
I can walk through what the system is. But it's worth saying at the front end that theologically, we want them to understand money is not where your value comes from.
Absolutely.
And rich people exist, and that doesn't make them better or worse. And there's no difference in God's eyes. In fact, most of the time he prefers when Jesus was in the world would say, blessed are the meek, blessed are those who have nothing.
Yeah.
And he uplifts the examples of those who have nothing and are still generous. And so we kind of have to start foundationally with some of the ideas of, like Randy Alcorn's The Treasure Principle. This is not your money. These are not your toys. You get to play with them for now, but God owns everything. And so that's hard to teach a 3-year-old. It's hard to teach a 4-year-old. 7, 8, they start understanding some of that stuff, but you kind of have to weave it into all the practical stuff that you're trying to accomplish at the same time. And it's a difficult task. So anyway, the way it works in our house, and if people know me, they know that I'm kind of tech savvy, and I go a little overboard on computers and gadgets and smart homes and all that kind of stuff. We have this little wall-mounted dashboard in our kitchen that is sort of a central hub for all things Bradley Family Organization. So our calendar's on there. The rules for our household are on there. We have things like recipes in there, so that if you're in the kitchen, you're cooking, you can put recipes in it. And I programmed a lot of it. It's completely Raz proprietary. You can't just go buy this product. And so it would be hard for me to say, you should do this system, because nobody can replicate it exactly how we've got it. But that is kind of how our household runs. You don't need this to organize your home in the same way. That's just how it's displayed and how it's organized. And so we teach our kids that there's really, it's hard to know exactly where to start. There's 3 places that your money should end at. Places where you share, places where you save, and places where you spend. And so foundationally, it's a 3-bucket system: share, save, and spend.
Okay.
Before that, to add some trouble to the water, is an earnings bucket.
Okay.
So in our house, on the scoreboard for each of our kids, and I'll give you a screenshot so it can kind of go into the video for anyone who's watching the video.
Sure.
At the top for each kid, there's an earnings bucket, so they know how much they've earned.
Okay.
And then there's a share bucket, a save bucket, and a spend bucket.
Okay.
And as they earn money throughout the week, it will just accumulate in that earnings bucket. They can't do anything with the money in earnings. That's kind of a deferred, I've earned this money, but I don't get to use it yet.
Sure. It's like working for a paycheck.
And they know, and they get excited for Friday mornings because all of their earnings accumulate throughout the week.
Yeah.
And on Fridays, they get to
That's payday.
allocate it. There's payday, right? And so on Friday, it's payday, and the earnings get allocated. And it's actually probably the biggest word Abby knows. At 4, to say, I want to allocate my earnings is a pretty advanced sentence for a 4-year-old. But she's very excited on Friday mornings to allocate her earnings. And she understands that concept because we've been reinforcing it for this time. So on Fridays, any of the money that they've earned throughout the week that's in that earnings category will get allocated down to share, save, and spend. The rule is at least the first dollar has to go to share because we always, from the first fruits, we'll give cheerfully.
Yeah.
Then we have to save some. It can be $1 if they choose. But anything that goes into that save bucket, mom and dad are going to match 50%.
Okay.
You put $2 in, I'll put $1 in. Now you've got $3.
Sure.
The other rules on the save bucket are you don't get to spend anything from that until it reaches $25.
Okay.
And even once it reaches $25, you got to wait another week before it goes down to the next bucket, which is the spend bucket.
Yeah.
We'll come back to that. So Friday morning, they allocate some to share, some to save. Only after they've allocated those two can they, if they want to, put anything in the spend bucket. Some weeks they'll have made $7, and it'll be $1 goes into share, $1 goes into save, and $5 goes into spend.
Sure.
Because they already know I want to buy a toy.
Sure.
Some weeks they'll put $3 in share, $4 in save. They'll get $6 in that save bucket, and they'll put nothing in spend because they know I don't have enough to buy what I want, so I'm just going to save it for the next week anyway.
Sure.
So the way it works, the share bucket is really just ways that we spend money on other people. We'll get to a point where that feels more like donations and less like birthday gifts, but they're young enough at this point that really if that share bucket gets used on so-and-so's birthday present, all I'm trying to teach them is not all of, you actually have, when you want to get stuff for other people, when you want to do something for other people,
it costs you.
It's still your job to get that money to go do that thing. So we've only been doing this for just a little under a year, maybe between 6 months and a year, somewhere in that range. And the share bucket has primarily been used for gifts to buy other people.
Sure.
But that's actually been lovely. It's cute. It's encouraging. It's nice to see that. And I can come back to anecdotes on that later on. Then it goes into to save. Nate is 8 and he's gotten a hang of this save bucket pretty well. He realizes if I can just wait a week or 2 weeks, then this money stretches out a lot further.
Yeah.
Abby struggles with that one because if she knows she wants a toy, then she wants it as soon as possible. And it's much faster to put money down in that bucket, but she doesn't get any of the leverage of mom and dad saving as well. But as soon as Nate kind of figured out that hack, he would wash 5 cars on Saturday, make $25, load up that thing, realize he has $30, $32, and smush. We didn't have that wait a week rule until more recently. And so he would just dump a whole bunch of money into save. It would automatically move to the spend category once you hit $25.
Sure.
And then he'd be like, oh, I'm super rich. I can go to Walmart and do what I want. But now you've got to wait an additional week. And so the purpose of that is we want them to understand it is healthy to save for your future wants. And you don't get everything that you want immediately.
Sure.
So they're growing up in the world where they can say, Mommy, I want to buy a thing. And she can do it on her phone and it'll be here in the morning.
Sure.
And that's a scary mindset to reinforce. And so the process for us is slowed down twice. Once, because the earnings pay out on Friday.
Okay.
If you wash a whole bunch of cars on Saturday, which is typically when they earn the most money is on Saturday, you got to wait another almost a week before you can even allocate it. And if it goes into that send categories, the spend category, you can spend it straight away. But if it goes into save, then you've got to wait another week at least. And so it's getting them thinking. I don't even know if Abby understands what 2 weeks is, but she knows it's not today.
Sure. Yeah.
And so there's some element of teaching them deferred, delayed gratification on some of that stuff as well. So that's the basic structure of the rules of how the money terminates on the way down.
Yeah. Maybe talk some on the earnings. So, if that's the system for once the money hits, that's kind of how it breaks down. What's the system for, you were naming some things like wash cars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
What does it look like for y'all to have a system for them to earn money? What were the considerations that y'all were putting into it?
Yeah. So one thing would be, we don't do allowance.
Okay.
That's fairly common. And I don't think that it's necessarily bad, but there's reasons we don't. And the primary one is that an allowance, I think, reinforces a sense of entitlement.
Okay.
Typically the way that this is not true for every household, but typically the way allowances work is you're going to get $20 a week as long as you're, I don't know, well-behaved or something. And that teaches kids, I don't actually have to do anything except exist and keep my head down.
Sure.
And I'll get money for it. So I kind of
motivated by parents, probably along the lines of, well, they've got to get money in their hands at some point to start learning how to engage with it and think about it and use it and that kind of stuff. And so it's a system by which you can do that. So it probably is coming from a decent place in terms of trying to be strategic.
It's accessible as well. Like it makes sense. Here's your allowance is $20 a week, and do with it what you want, and you learn responsibility for your spending based on that's how much you've got.
Sure.
But the entitlement piece is important to me. I don't want them to grow up thinking I don't have to earn it. I'm going to get it anyway. And so we have our board has two categories. There's the stuff that goes towards earnings. Categorically, we call those gigs.
Okay.
Just to distance them from the word chore.
Okay.
Gigs are almost like a commercial transaction. These are, we talk about providing value.
Okay.
And there's a concept borrowed from a book called Value Creation Kid. And it teaches parents how to structure their household. And we borrowed a lot of this, teaches your parents how to structure the household in a way that teaches kids to provide value in order to earn money.
Okay.
So we talk about providing value. If you're going to make money in the earnings, then it needs to be something outside of typical expectations. In some houses, the kids are expected to wash the car.
Sure.
In some houses, the kids are expected to cut the grass. We're trying to draw a line somewhere that says, what do we expect of you because you're a member of the house?
Okay.
And what can you do to provide value to the house? You can draw that line wherever you want. I'll give you the examples for us that fall on one side versus the other.
Okay.
But foundationally, we have a list of things that our kids are required to do. We call them chores. Chores you don't get paid for. Chores are expectations, and we use that word specifically. If you're going to be a member of our household, we expect you to pull your weight on some things. So for both of our kids, expectations, they're supposed to do these every day. Some days we go out to dinner and there's no dinner cleanup or whatever. Sure. But expectations are expectations. Make your bed, clean up toys. Both kids, same expectation. Make your bed every day, clean up your toys.
Okay.
That is not my job, and I'm not paying you to do those.
Sure.
You're going to do those because I expect these of you. Then Nate and Abby have different ones. So Abby's are going to be after dinner. So let me start with Nate because they happen in order. Nate is required to clean off the table.
Okay.
So all the plates, all the cups, he's going to scoop them up, scrape them into the trash, and then kind of pile them up. We're working on loading the dishwasher, but his job is primarily make sure the table is clear.
Sure.
Abby's job is to then come through and spray it and wipe down the whole table
Okay.
or the counter or the kitchen counter or all that kind of stuff. So in the cleanup after dinner, where Christina and I will probably do the pots and pans and load the dishwasher, but the kids are going to clear the table and wipe down all the surfaces. Sure. Nate's other chores are to do 10 minutes of reading every day. Expectation, you don't get paid for that. And make sure that the trash is handled. So if it's full, he has to take it out. If it's not full, he has to have at least checked. Sure. But if he checks and it's already empty, then he can kind of check it off on the board. So Nate's ones are make his bed, clean up toys, clear the dinner table, 10 minutes of reading, and empty the trash.
Okay.
5, expected pretty much every day.
Sure.
Abby's are make your bed, pick up toys, wipe the table after Nate's cleaned it up. Hers are no whining at bedtime,
okay,
which is an important one for the 4-year-old because she will whine and complain when you say, all right, 5 minutes till bed, and then the waterworks start.
Sure.
But it is an expectation, and it's on the board, no whining at bedtime. And then her last one is to make sure that all the shoes are at the front door.
Okay.
Low-hanging fruit for a 4-year-old. But
sure.
What always happens in our house is they come in through the garage door when Christina parks, and then their shoes are still on their feet, and they just end up wherever they decide to take them off. So sometimes that's in the couch, sometimes it's upstairs, sometimes it's at the back door. I don't know. Abby's job before she goes to bed, grab all the shoes, put them in the box at the front door.
Yeah.
Expectations. None of that is paid. Then we have what we call gigs, and gigs are split into a couple of categories. There's home gigs, brain gigs, and community gigs.
Okay.
Home gigs are cut the grass, clean the windows, clean the baseboards, clean the bathroom, lots of the cleaning style things. We've got a compost heap, so most nights Abby will take whatever veggie scraps there are and take it out to the compost for $1.
Sure.
They generally race each other to see who's going to help with dinner for the night. So help with dinner is one of the thing, and that teaches them to stir the pot and add the noodles and all those kinds of things as well. So clean windows, wipe windowsills, help cook dinner, clean bathrooms, sort and fold laundry, all those kinds of things.
All the things that the house has to have done.
That's right. And they're not expectations. So we've chosen basically to say, listen, we'll do these if no one wants to volunteer. But it's surprising once you start incentivizing them with money,
sure,
how quickly they're likely to, if you say, it's $2, if you want to help me fold the laundry, they're not even that good at it. But the point is that they're contributing, sure, and they're helping. Then we've got brain gigs. Brain gigs, I think, are going to become a bigger thing over time. But these kinds of things are where it's like, I actually want them to understand that you can provide value by using your brain. Okay. So for Nate, those are things like read a nonfiction book and write about it. He's not the best. He's at 3rd grade reading level in the 2nd grade, so he can read okay. But he's not going to read that much interesting stuff. Sure. But if he writes about it and can take what he's read and turn it into sentences,
sure,
he can make $3-4 by writing a book report on just something that he's interested in anyway. Sure. And he's generally kind of interested in those, and he has to do 10 minutes of reading every day anyway. So it's like that can, when he picks up on it more and writes more book reports, in theory, we're encouraging him, use your brain, learn things, sure, that you're not required to learn, be interested in stuff. Another one I have for him is make a video tutorial that teaches other kids a skill. So if people have me on Facebook, they would have seen a few months ago, he made a video teaching kids how to tie their shoelaces. Okay. Man, I'm telling you, blood, sweat, and tears. Learning to tie his shoelaces was a difficult task for Nate. But we wanted him to learn because he had to start wearing those kinds of shoes to school. So sure, if I can incentivize him to learn some way, it's a thing that I wanted him to. Abby's one similarly was learn to change your clothes without help. It's like, I need my kids to learn these skills at some point.
Sure.
It's not a bribe. It's an incentive to tell them, hey, listen, if you can learn it and then show someone else how to do it, then I will give you, it's a one-time deal, $3 to have learned to tie your shoes. And
sure. I mean, you already stated it, but just to reiterate with it, which is the kind of common theme that you've been talking about, is that idea of it's associating it with value.
Right.
This is something that is valuable. None of these things are going to be anything that sits outside of, it's providing value for the space that you are around, whatever that is.
That's right. Yeah. And look, you could tell me it's not valuable for Nate to make a video about tying shoes. Okay, sure, maybe not. One of the other kids in our neighborhood learned to tie his shoes, and the mom was super impressed that he watched Nate's video and learned to tie his shoes, and came up and said thank you to him at the pool in the middle of the summer. And that kind of reinforces for Nate, I did something and someone else learned it. Like those kinds of things are cool little moments as well.
And whether or not a kid had watched and learned to tie his shoes, he would still, it's a valuable thing to know how to tie your shoes, and it's a valuable thing to know how to teach and how to help other people in doing a thing. So whether or not somebody actually engaged with it on Facebook, whatever, he was still associating with me putting in this effort is valuable.
Yeah.
And it's reinforcing that idea by you get whatever the amount was.
And it's super helpful if someone else sees it and says, oh, that was great, you know?
Sure.
So there's home gigs, which is basically what you would classically think of as chores.
Sure.
But we call them gigs because we pay for them. There's brain gigs, which are like really trying to entertain the idea that you can think and interact with the world using your brain, not just your hands. And then there's community gigs, which is partially like our neighbors can rent our children's time, or things that happen outside of our house that we want them to engage. So an example recently is our neighborhood has a walking trail. Like it's almost like a quarter mile through the woods hike thing. And I don't know who goes out there in the middle of the night, teenagers or I doubt it's homeless. We're too far out. But there's every now and then there'll be a bunch of cigarettes, bunch of beer cans, bunch of plastic or whatever. And it's an eyesore. And for the people, not everybody uses the trail, but some people do. And it's kind of gross if there's just trash everywhere. Sure. And Abby was saying while we were walking one day, something about being sad about all the trash. And I said, well, why don't we clean it up? So we looped around and we went to the house and we grabbed trash bags and they went out there with these oversized gloves and they picked up all the trash and then I took a photo of it and posted it on the neighborhood page and paid them each $3 for picking up trash. And everyone who saw them at the pool that week was like, thanks for cleaning up, because everybody knows our kids or whatever, especially because there's a photo of it. And so that's one of the things. It's like I want them to be incentivized as well to do things that are good. And you know, every now and then we get these hurricanes or whatever, and it blows a trash can over. And so we've said to them, you don't actually get $3 every time you walk around the neighborhood and find one piece of trash. Sure. But when the time comes and you can provide value, we'll give you money to go do that thing. Sure. And so sometimes it'll be cutting people's grass, pulling their weeds. We actually have a section on our little smart board thing where we have neighbors over all the time. They can walk up and type in their own chores and that kind of thing. So, that's kind of how it works. So there's expectations, things they have to do, and there's gigs, which is ways they can get paid. Now, one thing I don't think I mentioned earlier was in that earnings bucket on Friday when they allocate their earnings down to the other categories. One of the rules that's written on there is if they don't do their expectations, their chores, then we have the right to retain earnings. Okay. We don't take it away. They just don't get to allocate it on Friday if they haven't been doing the expectations. So they're actually incentivized. They're required daily to mark off their chores, and it keeps track of the score or whatever throughout the week. Sure. So that on Friday we can look at the board and say, you didn't do your chores all week. Your earnings aren't getting allocated today. You're going to have to wait till next week. Sure. So that kind of links the two together with this requirement that you keep up with your daily expectations.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. What would you say? You said you've been running it for a little under a year. Yeah. What would you say has been some of the biggest wins that has come out of this? And then maybe we'll close out with how maybe some of this can translate to other people.
Yeah. I would start by saying, if you're a parent and you have kids that go with you to Target or Walmart or whatever, and you don't have a system that they understand, then what you inevitably end up doing on every single trip is having to invent the rules for today about whether or not they can have that thing. Sure. And so when you have a 4-year-old in a cart and they go they walk through the entrance of Walmart and there's a whole section for the season.
Yep.
And you are immediately confronted with the meltdown because last time you bought me something, how come this time you don't buy me something? That kind of thing. Then at some point you're either reinforcing a bad system or creating this tension on yourself where even where parents say, oh, I just don't want to take my kids. I don't want to have to fight that battle, you know? Our kids have, it may seem like overkill the first time you hear about all the things we do, but there's a couple of benefits to it being so structured. And one of them is they know exactly how to get what they want. They've just got to work for it.
Yeah.
And they know that if they go to Walmart and they have no money in that spend category, that they're not getting anything. The harder thing for us is when they've got $7, but the thing they want costs $8, and you've got to enforce the rule. You don't have enough money for that yet, so either pick something else, or you can just wait a week and do some more chores. But that's one of the things is our kids have started to learn. Oh, if I want something, I can make that happen for myself. And so the part of what I said earlier, the entitlement, the expectation that I just deserve things, that it doesn't vanish because birthdays and Christmas and that kind of stuff still exists. But it certainly empowered them to think a little harder about what they actually want and then go earn the money to get the thing they actually want. Recently, sort of as an anecdote, Nate had a birthday in September. We're filming this in October. It was about a month ago. And so we didn't really know what to get him for his birthday. I was planning a camping trip with Nate for his birthday. That was kind of the thing. We prefer experiences over things. But we wanted him to have something new as well. So we just kind of agreed we'd give him money, take him to Academy, and let him buy something for the trip. And I had this conversation with Christina before we went. I said, I just want, so that we can think back on this in a month's time, I want you to watch what he buys and consider how he treats that thing versus the things he thinks of ahead of time. Because we surprised him with this. We said, put your shoes on, we're going to Academy, you get to buy whatever you want. And that's a lot. We probably could have done better, but that's a lot for an 8-year-old to have to digest. I can get whatever I want. And so we went to Academy, and of course, everyone's been to there's just walls of stuff that, and if I'm ever going to go to a place and I want my kid to buy something, Academy's a better place than Target or Walmart because it'll at least get them outside. But he still had this paralysis of like, oh, what do I get? Oh, I can get that, or I can get that. And then inevitably, even the dollar amount associated with it, when he's holding $100 that he didn't earn, the value placed on that item is almost meaningless to him, except for the fact that if he buys this, he can't buy that. And so he bought one nice pair of boots so that he could go hiking, and they were waterproof and like they're the duck boot kind of thing. But then, and that was like $40. But then he'd spent the rest of it on garbage. And so it was toys. It was like a foam ball that he doesn't play with anymore. And there was a flashlight that was like $1. And I was trying to get him to buy a nicer one that he wanted to, And so he ended up with a whole basket of tiny little things that he doesn't touch anymore 1 month later. Versus when he actually has to consider, what do I want so that I'll go and earn the money required for me to get that thing? He's more intentional about the way he spends his own money versus when he's just given money or given stuff. So the birthday gift itself, when other people buy him stuff, it's very hard to be intentional enough to buy a kid a thing that they'll actually play with. And so one of the benefits of this system is they consider what they want, and then they go earn the money to buy what they want. And then the thing that they buy is more likely than not to be treated well. When they don't earn it, they don't care as much about it. And so they treat the toy itself poorly. They don't really care if it gets broken or destroyed.
Sure. It loops back to that idea of value. In terms, like the things themselves, it's not just my work or the things that I'm doing that have value. The thing that I'm getting as a result of it also has value.
Yeah, I have to protect it because I worked for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's a neat thing. I would say another kind of anecdotal, this is a huge, beautiful benefit of the system is the share category, where they make some money and put it in share. At the moment, really all we're enforcing is that you can't spend it on yourself.
Sure.
And like I said earlier, most of that is birthday presents for other people or whatever. But, if we weren't doing this and we were doing what everybody else does, what typically happens is your 7-year-old goes to a 7-year-old's birthday party and mom goes to Target midweek and just buys whatever so-and-so's parents say is on the wish list, some Lego thing or whatever. And they package it up and Nate hands it to him, but doesn't even know what's in it.
Yep.
And he's not really invested in, do I want this kid to like it or not? And so what is one of the nice things in this share category is the kids know so-and-so's birthday is coming up. My birthday came up in August. And so they had money in their share category. And Christina took them and said, we're going to go buy daddy a birthday present from your share money. So they had, I don't know, $7 or $8 each, something like that. And they would buy things like socks and be super excited about the socks that they picked for me for my birthday. And they care because they earned the money and they care about the result. Their desire to see me open it or to see if I liked it or to say, oh, I love these socks or whatever. It makes the whole thing more valuable to them as an experience for what does it look like to bless others.
Yeah.
But to have been the one to produce the money, to earn the thing, to buy the thing, to deliver the thing, helps them connect a lot of that value across the line.
Yeah, they truly experience,
I actually wore them because we filmed this before. I actually wore Nate's socks that he bought me. They're very patriotic. They're stars and stripes. And so he picked them out and he was really excited to give them to me. And yeah,
that's great. It's such a, we all understand that teaching or learning more specifically comes best in tangible ways, not just theoretically I'm hearing ideas, but actually engaging with it, especially when it comes to all the stuff that you're talking about here with dealing with money. And it's like, that idea of Jesus saying it's more blessed to give than it is to receive.
Right.
It's like he experienced that. I remember being a kid at Christmas time and learning this idea first. We had a different system for us. Mom and dad just said, you get this much money, you're going to spend it on other people. But I can remember, like, all of a sudden, other people opening gifts meant something because I had considered them, thought about them, gave to them. And it's that same idea where he's learning that just in a very tangible way all along the steps in terms of I worked for this, I gave it to him, I see how it benefits him. That's true value. So that's super cool. What would you say as we close out the conversation for anybody who's listening to all of this and maybe thinking, oh my word, that's a super complex, difficult system. How in the world? I'm not going to program anything onto an iPad in the middle of my kitchen. How in the world am I going to try to do this? I like the ideas. I love the anecdotal stories that he's talking about, the wins that they're celebrating in their family. I want to see that in mine. How would you encourage a mom or a dad that's hearing this that wants to take these steps to start getting in the game on this?
Yeah. So something that's been a theme across most of these podcasts so far, and I think Chet has kind of hung his hat on this the most, is you want to start now and project forward. Where do I want my kids to be at when they're adults?
Sure.
And so in his episode, at least the one I've seen, had been mostly discipline. How do I want them to behave in 15 years' time from now? And what understanding do they need to develop at their current state to get there? Most of my mentality on this is the same way. What are the things that I want 20-year-old Nate to understand so that 8-year-old Nate can start developing the skills at this point to get to that point? And so I would first encourage parents to think through that lens.
Sure.
My kids are going to have to learn about money at some point. I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoins. I don't know if it's going to be US dollars. I don't know if it's going to be gold blocks. Who knows what that's going to be in the future? But we have some understanding of what we think life is going to be like for them.
The principle remains the same in terms of earning and spending and saving and all that kind of stuff.
Providing value. Yeah. And in a capitalist society, we can predict somewhat what this is going to look like in the future. And how, I don't want my kids to overvalue money in like the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil sense.
Sure.
But I do want them to understand how it works. And so as best we can prepare them for that, I would say most parents expect them to learn by themselves. Sure. I don't know if that's a direct accusation at our church, probably not, but in society, we see so many kids that don't know how money works, don't know how the economy works, don't know where it comes from, don't even understand basic budgeting principles,
sure,
let alone taking out loans and what kind of effect that'll have on their future.
Sure.
And so I want parents at a starting point to say, I should do something to disciple my kids here. I should do something to protect them from the evils of money, but also prepare them for the world that requires it.
Sure.
And so from a starting point, have a plan. It doesn't have to be exactly like mine. I know it's complicated. But have a strategy, because the school system is probably not going to teach the kids how to file taxes or how to provide value. The school system is going to help them with their math, sure, and teach them to read, hopefully. It is the parents' job to prepare their kids for the future.
Sure.
And so prepare them for money. They should learn this stuff. I like my system because I think it addresses a lot of those at an age-appropriate level. And sure, I think it can scale over time. You can alter the way that they earn money. But even at Abby's age, at 4, she understands I've got to earn it. Once I earn it, I got to wait till Friday. On Friday, I can allocate it and then I can spend it. This is helpful stuff.
Yeah.
And so I don't think anybody is likely to be able to take my exact system with my computers and those kinds of things and replicate it.
Sure.
But once you see the visual of, okay, they have an earnings bucket, they have a share bucket, a save bucket, and a spend bucket. Depending on how many kids you've got, that's not actually that many buckets to juggle. You can do it on an index card. You can do it on the fridge. You can do it on a whiteboard.
Sure.
You'll have to navigate.
Notes app on your phone.
Notes app on your phone. You probably have to develop a way to prevent your kids from adding to the tally when no one's watching.
Sure.
But in theory, the system itself is understandable as long as they can see those buckets.
Sure.
There's some fancy apps out there. Once your kids are old enough to carry a wallet and have their own debit card, you can kind of do it electronically as well. We're not there. We're not doing debit cards and stuff like that. Where everything's just on the board, and Christine and I both have the same app on our phone, so we can interact.
You see
with
what
it.
they got, and then you can know how much that they're allowed to spend when they're in the store or something like that.
Yeah. It's like a live. You can access it from anywhere in the world. Sure. But the point there is, as long as you can keep track of it,
sure,
the earnings and then the bucket system for us works really well. And so I want parents to start by saying we're going to think through this.
Sure.
Whether or not you adopt that exact same mechanic, kind of irrelevant. I would urge people to reconsider if they've got an allowance system. The allowance system, especially, I don't know how people would set it up. There's a billion different ways, but if it's one that, if someone accused you that it was breeding entitlement, I think you would want to reconsider any household format that teaches kids to be entitled.
Sure.
You want them to grow up and graduate your household with the idea that I should work for money, not just be handed it.
Sure.
And so if we can start that at age 4, then it's much easier by age 16.
Yeah.
If you haven't changed that yet, then before they leave the house, you kind of want to reprogram that part of their mind, I would think.
Absolutely. I'd say, I mean, you and I have gotten talk on this, and the idea is something you just think of when you enter into the parenting space. Your mind thinks about these random different things at different times or whatever. And I think prior to this in-depth, full-length conversation with you, I would probably have thought, oh yeah, but this is like a down the road type thing, whatever. We'll get to this. This is 10 years old and something. We'll solve this. We'll think about this and deal with it then. But the thing for me that's making my mind think as you're talking is like, oh, Abby is 4 years old. And no, she doesn't understand all of it, but she does exist inside of it well. And it is teaching the things that you're wanting to. And so it's making me think on like, oh, okay, this is actually something that you can start working and tackling sooner in terms of the age of a child. And then also, but at the same time, Nate's older, but he's still catching on and he's still fitting into the system. So it's not like I've got to wait or, oh, I'm too late, I haven't picked it up.
Right.
It's like wherever you are, just start and work towards something. And you probably can't do it too soon and you can't do it too late. So just think about something that think about the way that you want your kids to think about money, especially when they're older and when they're out of the house, and then just start working toward that. And that's what it sounds like coming from you.
Yeah, super, super practically, I think the earliest you would start is when they start talking.
Sure.
And that's primarily because that's when they learn, if I scream and melt down and say, I want it, I want it, I want it, that parents will cave.
Sure.
So don't cave and set up a system that
helps you.
The child already understands that's not going to work.
Sure.
Because you have a way to get what you want.
Yeah.
So I would say when they're a screaming potato, they don't have words yet, they're a baby, they're barely toddling or whatever, it's probably too early to have the conversation about money.
Sure.
But 3, I would say, is not too early. Sure. 3 is when they start learning that if I scream and complain and whine, that I can get what I want. And similar to what Chet says about discipline, you want to like your kids, and you want to, if they're in the car and you need to stop at Walmart, you shouldn't be afraid of your child. So they need to have the discipline to be able to handle a trip to Walmart.
Yeah.
And they need to understand the expectations of what am I supposed to do to get what I want.
Yeah.
In that mode. It is a little frustrating when a family would say something like, I can't go to Walmart, I've got my kid with me.
Sure.
They're just going to freak out and well, they shouldn't. They should have the discipline, and they should have an arrangement in your household where they can earn what they want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for coming and sitting down. If you got any last minute thoughts or something that you want to share, then now's your time. But I think we covered a lot of ground on this and some super helpful practical stuff.
Yeah. People free to ask us or quiz us on how it works. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it, I hope.
Yeah, awesome. Well, if you've got more questions, of course, Raz just offered, you can go ask him at any point in time. You can come talk to me, but I'll just probably point you to Raz, give you his phone number. But yeah, thanks so much for sitting down. And hopefully this is helpful for other people to think about money in their own household and how they're teaching their kids. Thanks for joining me today in this conversation about parenting. I hope it was helpful to you and that it sparks good conversation for your own family. I know that each family is unique and you're going to have your own questions about whatever you're facing with your kids. So don't ever hesitate to reach out to other families in our church or your pastors about any help that you might need as a parent.